Welcome to everyone. We have a tremendous amount of content to get through today. I'm going to talk fairly quickly, cover a lot of points, but there's a little, if you've been a part of GoToWebinar, you'll notice the question box on the side. Feel free to fill that in as we're going through things so that we can address those at the end. A little about me. I'm the enterprise strategist at Logical Position. My life is fairly crazy, and a little of why you're talking to me today has nothing to do with my 4 kids under 5, but it's an insight into my life and how much chaos there is. But my wife and I own 5 businesses. 3 of them actually sell online. We have 8 acres, so it keeps us very busy, and we just planted a bunch of Pinot Noir grapes. So if you enjoy Oregon Pinot Noir, maybe at some point you'll see some Ryan Garrow Pinot Noir. Also note, if you do enjoy Pinot Noir, the shape of that glass is an Oregon Pinot Noir glass, and your taste buds will thank you if you drink it out of that. But really, why I'm here today is because I have one passion, and it is digital marketing, and specifically in e-commerce. That's why BigCommerce has been such a phenomenal partner with us. We have hundreds of clients working with us on the BigCommerce platform. We know it very well, and they've just been a phenomenal partner, and I just really get a lot of joy out of helping businesses grow. And so that's why my job is so fulfilling here at Logical Position. So what we're going to do today, touch on who Logical Position is. We're going to look at some clean data. We're going to know why it's a problem, how to find clean data, find dirty data, and fix it. We're going to analyze some of that data so that we can forecast. We're going to take a snapshot of the holidays because most of you here are e-commerce. And the holidays are a very important time in that e-commerce life cycle throughout the year. So it'll help us to look at that data to start forecasting in 2018. And then once we come up with some forecasts, I'm going to give you an example for one of our clients of how we forecasted some growth and how we worked with the client from their side to come up with a number that we were both comfortable with. And then some things you can do right now that will help you achieve that goal for 2018. And then hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end to touch on some of your questions, and also a little bonus coming at the end too, or you can get some time with me. So Logical Position, we're one of the largest digital agencies in the US. We've got offices all around the country, 7 of them actually, 2 here in Lake Oswego, and then 5 around the country. So we're covering quite a bit of it. We're one of the original 30 Google Premier partners. There are quite a few Google Premier partners. They're all very good. We were one of the ones to launch that program, and we're in the channel partner group. So we're also one of the best companies to work for, which for companies working with us don't necessarily care because they're not actually employees of ours, but it matters to them because we retain a lot of our employees and develop them. So they get a lot of consistency within their account. We started in 2009. They acquired the company I was CEO of in 2015, and we've been on just a trajectory of amazing growth in the last 2.5 years. In fact, in 2015, we brought on, I think, 75 of our large enterprise e-commerce clients, and now we have about 1,300 e-commerce clients. The slide's, I think, 2 months old. We used it in end of the year, beginning of January. We've got 4,000 clients now. We have 1,300 e-commerce clients, and we have, I think, 370 employees. So growing very quickly, just a fun place to be, and a fun place for us to operate in, and just helping all these e-commerce companies grow. So we're going to start with clean data. Most of the time, no matter how good you are in implementing analytics, over time, it just gets messy. There's so many things that can go wrong in a tracking platform. So we're going to look at data. Specifically, we're going to look at analytics. There are many tracking platforms out there, not right or wrong. Google Analytics is free, and it's what we've seen, and we've been in obviously thousands of e-commerce accounts, thousands of lead gen, and it's just a very consistent data that most people can understand, and you can move between agencies with that data, and if it's clean, it can be valuable for years to come. Adobe has some tracking things as well. You can get Google Analytics Premium. They can give you some additional insights and value in that. But generally speaking, I'm going to stay on the free platforms for analysis purposes because I'm assuming most of you have it. If you don't, get it on your website now because you're going to thank yourself in a year. So we're going to forecast effectively for the future, you have to be able to look at the past and analyze through that data to determine what you should be shooting for and how much value that old data is going to have in setting your company up for success in the next year. We're going to look at Google Analytics, as I said. We're going to look at why it's different many times from your internal data and what variance is acceptable. We're going to see some common mistakes in analytics, and then we're going to talk a little about annotating. So the importance of clean data. You need a source of truth that everybody within the organization can agree on. So whether that's finance, whether marketing, the C-suite, if you are just you and your wife, like I am in a few of my businesses, we have to at least agree on what we're using as our source of truth, and is the business working, growing, failing, and where's the money going? Google Analytics is a great one that can do that, but each part of your organization, depending on how big you are and the goals of different parts of the organization, will see that same data differently. And that's okay. We just need to be able to go into that source of truth when we're going to try to push different levers within marketing to achieve goals for the organization. Tagging proper channels. So making sure that all the traffic coming to your site is in the right silo within analytics so that you can then see how they're interacting together and pushing different channels in different areas. We know that we have an omni-channel online space where people are touching your brand or your website in many different ways. They may come in on paid search and then come back organically and then come in through a referral from an affiliate. They may touch social before they buy. There's so many ways that people are interacting. If they're not tagged correctly, it's going to cause quite a bit of issues within your analytics and deciding what's working and what isn't working. We're in Google Analytics, but if you're not using analytics, Google Analytics, make sure that your platform you're looking at least allows for segmentation of data. You need to be able to filter data in different ways so that you can see, again, how they're working, and if some channel is not working, how do you get it all by itself to decide why it's not working, and how do you make improvements to that? And then segmentation in paid search. Not just in your AdWords account, but in the traffic and how you're bringing it into analytics, because analytics is so powerful in what it can do to filter data, to look at different ways that paid search is interacting with other channels and paid search with itself. And you need to evaluate your paid search differently depending on the type of traffic coming in. And we're going to touch on that, but let's get into just what is that clean data and tagging channels first. So tagging channels, gets you a great, wonderful picture. All the traffic is still coming into analytics, but if it's tagged incorrectly, you're going to see issues within it. So with this example at the bottom here, you'll see they have direct traffic, CPC, Bing CPC, but then you see list track. This is a client that came into us that we had to fix this. Just changing the capital letters within the list track tagging caused it to show up as two different source mediums. Not ideal. Obviously, it was showing up under email, but it makes it more difficult to analyze that data over time, year over year or period over period. So consistency in your tagging. And you can't get too granular in the source. So keep it in the right medium, which is CPC on these or email in these. I've seen some tagging try to break Google up into CSE, which then had an issue when they were trying to, they called Google Shopping CSE, which is a problem if you use the customer shopping engines, such as Shopzilla or PriceGrabber. They had some tracking issues within that space. So just pay attention to how you're tagging so it doesn't cross into other channels accidentally. If you want to know how to tag, you can just Google the URL builder for Google Analytics. It's a great tool there. There's a link, the GA-Dev tools. And in the example, you can see that you have your URL, the question mark UTM_source tells you where it came from, if it's email, if it's Google, and then you can see the medium would be CPC. That's a very basic one, but you get the idea of how it's working, and you can continue segmenting off of that. If you don't tag your email, it's just going to show up as direct traffic because Google Analytics doesn't know that it was sent by an email. And so a lot of times I'll have a client come on board that has great direct traffic, and then we fix all their tagging, and year over year their direct traffic is way down, but their email is way up. What we found out is, hey, you weren't tagging email last year, and Google saw it as direct traffic. And so then we have to go in and filter for URLs to try to uncover what the actual direct traffic was to see if it's actually down year over year. So fixing data will cause some messiness, but future you will thank current you for doing it now. Just continuing on with messy, dirty data is never going to help your business grow or expand on the things that are working. So tag channels. Google Analytics is always going to be different than your internal data. It's not perfect, and there are many reasons for that. Phone calls, orders that get put in on the back end of the website, depending on what platform you're on. I'm assuming most of you are on BigCommerce. Some companies have their call center or internal salespeople put orders into the front end of the site, and that can help. Google Analytics become closer to what it is, but then you also lose some of that because it's going to be direct traffic coming to it. Returns. Most companies forget this. So if Google Analytics is reporting all this extra revenue, but you had a couple big returns, that would be one of the big reasons why your internal bank account is showing a much different number. Taxes and shipping. You have to manipulate Google Analytics to make sure those are tracked properly. Sometimes we have clients that use those as revenue sources. And so when you're figuring not the taxes part, but the shipping part, when shipping is a profit center for you, you want to see that in analytics and see it in the bank account. Fraudulent things. Google Analytics can filter those out. We can eliminate those in some of it, but sometimes fraud orders get caught in analytics and they don't get caught on your end. Just tremendous amount of differences. We're finding through all of our experience in talking to some of the top Google Analytics people, a 5 to 10% variance is acceptable as long as it's consistent. You don't want to be 10% up one month and 10% down the next month. That would make me believe that there are some issues in some of how the things are being tracked. So try to just get a consistent number that you can say, okay, we generally believe analytics is 6 to 7% above our real number, and we're okay with that as long as we know it's there. So find out what that is to help yourself just get a source of truth that everybody can align with and understand. And then more training and analytics will always help your multiple channels within the company. So common mistakes, clicks versus session issues. So when you're looking at AdWords traffic and analytics, you can have some issues within that. And if you see that your sessions are lower than your clicks, then you have a problem. Your users also should be higher than your sessions. Or if your users are higher than your sessions, your traffic is going different places. And so users can have multiple sessions, but one session should not have multiple users. So just as a 30,000 foot level, you can see if traffic is being tagged incorrectly at the category level or the medium level. Some third-party shopping carts have incorrect referral attributions. Sometimes they take credit for other traffic, and you have things such as PayPal you'll find in your account that takes a lot of credit. It's kind of embarrassing when we see this because it's, especially if you have some agency partners, that should be something that they catch and understand, that PayPal doesn't send you traffic. So when you eliminate it, you're actually giving that credit back to where it came from originally. And so PayPal is a huge issue that we see quite often. So get in there, look at your referral traffic, eliminate that. Data sampling, if you're large enough, Google samples your data and you don't see 100% of your Google Analytics data. So that can just lead to some differences in data. If you need to see it and you get enough traffic, Google Analytics Premium gives you unfiltered access to the data. So just be aware that could be a solution for some companies. It's about $10,000 a month for that. And then a messed up Google Analytics code. That's an official term we use here at Logical Position. Our analytics team likes to use that because it's so simple, everybody understands it. But analytics tracking can be broken. If you haven't used the newest, freshest version, there are problems with it. September, if you were familiar with tracking, iOS from Apple changed how they're allowing people to track their users. And so you actually have to manipulate analytics code to accommodate that, or make sure that analytics is aware that traffic will look different when it's coming from iOS devices. And so there's a lot of things you can do to fix that. And so here's what sampled data looks like, by the way. All traffic will have a green badge saying 100% of your sessions are in this as you're looking at the data. The bigger you get, the more often you're going to see the yellow badge, which says not all of the traffic is being used on this. It's just giving you an estimate based on portions of the traffic. Not right or wrong. It's actually very valuable. It helps you filter data a lot quicker and come up with reports better. So messed up analytics code. It's very easy to test this. Just get the Google Tag Assistant. I love that. I have it on all of my browsers. Chrome, it's just a thing. You'll see the little badge and it'll tell you the problems. If you have Google Analytics tag issues, if you have remarketing tag issues, if you have AdWords tag issues, there's no reason any business shouldn't have that when they go onto a site and just look and see how their tags are looking. You can also see if you have duplicate analytics code. We've had that happen before where they didn't know another company had access to an analytics profile of theirs. Annotating Google Analytics. So extremely important in looking at what's happening year over year. It also is a great reminder of what you did. So if you send emails that have a big impact on your sales for a day, tag that in Google Analytics with the promotion. Don't just say you sent an email. Say, hey, we sent an email to the entire database and gave everybody 20% off. And then when you look back at that spike in traffic and sales that day, you'll know exactly why it's there, not just, hey, it was Tuesday and people loved us that day. Promos, offsite promos. We have some clients that use QVC for some of their offsite stuff, and that will dramatically impact the brand traffic as well, but it won't necessarily impact conversions as much because they're trying to get the product that's on QVC only. If your site goes down, we had this happen to a client, not on BigCommerce, thankfully, but went down during a portion of holiday. And a 4-hour drop that they weren't up for that period of holiday cost them thousands of dollars. We need to see that in analytics as we're forecasting, as we look back at the period of forecast, but also next year when we see that we're not saying, oh, well, we only did, 25,000 in revenue this day. Well, we also lost, 20,000 of revenue being down those 4 hours. So you will thank yourself later. Again, future self, this is a big thing for future self. If you haven't done it yet, you'll be very happy you do when you start it. Here's what it looks like. So you'll see these little annotations along the traffic graph in analytics, and then what they actually are. The screen I'm on, they're not tremendously clear, but they're just instances of, hey, the Cyber Week is here. They saved up to 60%. That was a promo on November 27th, 2017. They put out a gift guide December 7th, and that raised traffic as well. So hugely valuable when you're looking at data. Okay, here's some quick things you can see in Google Analytics that can help. If you do have dirty data when you're looking at the past and it's just there's issues and you found some of the issues and fixed them, you can still go back, but you've got to stay more at a high level, kind of the 10,000 foot analysis level. You can't really get into the details of source medium things, or if you have PayPal stealing traffic from other sources, you kind of got to look at the whole website and look at things. No revenue. If you haven't had revenue tracking put in place yet, you have to make some estimates based on your internal numbers as you're starting to forecast, and then starting to look at how Google Analytics differs from your internal data to know kind of how you're going to be forecasting, what you need to be seeing. But if you don't have Google Analytics revenue tracking, put it in as soon as possible. It just takes some manipulation of the code. Direct carts. So I think I have a picture of this. So there's the PayPal, what it looks like when you're in referral. This is an issue, FOMO, not just because we have the fear of missing out, but it's a plugin coming up on websites a lot. I think Shopify specifically has this that's showing up a lot. It's taking a lot of credit for sales, and it's a popover when somebody has an exit intent, and it's not necessarily should be the thing claiming 100% of the revenue. It's good for FOMO, obviously, to say, oh, look at this, we saved you, quote unquote, $200,000. Isn't that amazing? Look at the return on investment we're offering. But that $200,000 was influenced by paid search, by SEO, by maybe partners sending traffic, referral traffic that is valuable. So FOMO shouldn't be getting the credit for the traffic. What we do is eliminate it, and then we use event tagging to see how many transactions actually engaged with the FOMO. It's a coupon code, so if you are moving your mouse around the site, not even necessarily intending to exit, but somebody's going to give you a free 10% off coupon for saying, okay, most people will take it. So that type of thing, just make sure that it's eliminated properly and still tracked, because you want to see how it's interacting and how it's saving sales. Your direct traffic, this is the cart stuff. If you see these landing pages in your direct traffic, chances are people are not typing that into their browser to come to your site. And so that's an indicator that you have some self-referrals, or you have some issues within your shopping cart that's causing Google to think that it's direct traffic. And it's actually taking credit maybe from some other things, or it could start a new session that maybe they thought they came in on paid search and then came a fully new user. So there's some issues you need to fix within that if you're seeing this within your landing pages. If you want to spend some time with me after the call, we can look through some of these in your analytics and come up with a plan for how you might want to fix that and make it more effective. So if you don't have revenue, sometimes you have traffic volume, you've got to look at that, but you also have to be careful that you're not hitting bots. We've had a lot of clients think their traffic was just doing wonderful and they didn't have revenue tracking, so they weren't aware that, hey, it's not actually turning into money at the other side until they start looking at the internal data. So that's where it's important to match up external revenue data. Make sure, hey, just because sessions went up 500%, if revenue dropped, probably bad traffic coming to your site. You need to further dig in to find out where it's coming from. And analytics can actually make that pretty easy to do, and you can eliminate those bots as you see them. So it's kind of like whack-a-mole, constantly hitting them back as they come up. Also, a note, kind of a bonus here, AdWords tracking. If you have a repeat rate, if you go into the conversions tab of AdWords and you see a repeat rate that's higher than maybe 1.04, 1.05, you probably have some issues with your AdWords pixel. And so I like having both pixels on a site. I want to see AdWords tracking and Google Analytics tracking and use them separately whenever possible. The AdWords pixel is extremely valuable for certain analysis, and the Analytics pixel is helpful for a lot of other analysis. But if your repeat rate here, this actually was pulled from a Shopify store that has unique URLs that causes a lot of problems with repeat rate if it's not fixed on the pixel. So average across our sites, about 5% over a 30-day window. Also know that Google has been very big in the last probably 3 or 4 months advocating for a 90-day conversion window on e-commerce sites because it makes it look like Google's doing better on their paid search program. I usually don't advocate for that. Most clicks that I made in December, I'm not using to make decisions today. And so that 90-day window still picks up now. So if I click on December 15th and I buy today, that click in AdWords gets full credit on the AdWords pixel. They also like to use the data-driven model, giving credit. So if they use a 90-day window, let's say also put on the data-driven. Again, I'm a big advocate for last click in AdWords and 30-day because it keeps very clean, consistent data. It's the most popular, oldest way that AdWords has been tracking. And then you can use Google Analytics to manipulate the data and look at 90-day windows, look at assisted conversions, but keep your AdWords pixel the same year over year if possible. If you've recently talked to Google and they've made those changes, I would seriously consider looking at going back to the 30-day last click window now, even though it's going to give you a couple months of dirty data that you can go back and as you analyze next year. I think it would be valuable overall. So as you analyze stuff, so we're spending a lot of time in analytics as we're looking to forecast. I know it's not the most exciting piece, but it's tremendously important if you're going to forecast successfully, is knowing where your analytics is at and what you're forecasting off of. So know your dates. Specifically, when you're in e-commerce, the holiday dates are extremely important. I tell all of our clients be aware of these dates during holiday, the last quarter of the year. Halloween being the 4th largest e-commerce sales holiday, most people have no idea that it's that big of a holiday. People are looking to shop, and what we've seen is a lot of marketing companies or a lot of marketing departments at large organizations get to go a little bit off brand on Halloween, and they get to have a little more fun, so it ends up driving a lot of sales that might not normally be what they can do, and they have to stay on brand. Obviously, Veterans Day, honoring our veterans with some deals and sales. And then most of them, Thanksgiving week, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We had a lot of companies this year when we were helping them get ready for holiday that had never heard of Green Monday or Free Shipping Friday. Green Monday, biggest shopping day of December, when Cyber Monday falls in November, like it normally does, you will see tremendous amounts of volume that day. And so we had a client that had tremendous volume in 2016 on this date, but very low sales. And so we asked him about it when he came on board, I think in February of 17. And he'd never heard of Green Monday. I said, well, your traffic went up and nobody bought because they were going to your retailers. He retails at REI, and REI had a great promo. So he brought the traffic, told them about his brand, and they bought somewhere else. Not a bad deal if the sales at REI were good. But again, if you're paying for the traffic to come to your site, you'd like them to buy on your site. And then Free Shipping Friday, it's free to register. People expect it. If you don't have free shipping most of the time, you should have it on this date. It'll impact you dramatically, especially if there are other people selling your products. If you're the only one in the world selling your product, it's not as important, but you can get a good volume bump on some non-brand terms by offering free shipping that day because people expect it. Also, as you're looking back on 2017, understand the impact enhanced CPCs had. We have a lot of companies that have been impacted by enhanced CPCs. It wasn't fully implemented for the year, so they started implementing it in June of 2017. And it used to be that enhanced CPCs, if you're not familiar, had a 30% cap. And so if you were bidding $1 in AdWords, Google would be, and you had enhanced CPC on, you basically gave Google permission to bid up to $1.30 on that click. In June of 2017, they removed the cap. They said, we're not going to put a cap on there anymore. Only 25% of AdWords accounts had it in June of 2017. And just this month, they've rolled it out to 100%. So it's been a gradual rollout to everybody. So it hasn't impacted every brand as much. But we have a client that came on board that when I analyzed their August, after the enhanced CPC went away, and they were one of the accounts that we could tell it hit because they had a $250 click and they were bidding $40. Hugely expensive. He almost lost his mind when he saw that he paid $250 for a click that didn't convert. So expect that to have an even larger impact this year if you're utilizing that. I caution most companies not to use it. You should be able to increase the bids appropriately, but know that it's out there and Google's spending a lot of money. You basically opened up your credit card to Google. Not always bad, but understand that Google's goals are different than yours. And so enhanced CPC is a big red flag for companies moving forward, but also paying attention to that as they look in 2018 and try to forecast. When possible, try to compare to other e-commerce companies. So if you have some friends that are also in e-commerce, if you work with an agency that has a lot of other e-commerce, it can help you try to figure out maybe where you missed some things or maybe where you underperformed the industry. Google can help out with this with some search volume as well, depending on the team you have at Google or your access to teams through an agency. But comparing volume, conversion spikes, for example, our average client, I think we had about 1,100 e-commerce clients through the Cyber Week, and the average across our account revenue was up 17%, and cost was, I think, only up 5 to 10%. I don't remember the exact number, but that's a good barometer saying, okay, how much were we up year over year when we were going against ourselves? We were going against other accounts. You're going to see we were in the example I'm giving where we went against another agency, and that had a little bit different results than just the 17% when we were managing the accounts in both time periods. Okay, so jumping into the part that we're here for is dialing into your forecasting. Okay, how to start? You need to come up with some objectives. You know, we want to grow the brand overall. Most people are hoping to grow or expecting to grow, but also by looking at your historical trends. And obviously, that's the purpose of having good analytics that we just went over. As you look at 18, understand where it was broken, where it was working. Recasting. You can't talk too much about that. We're going to have a slide on that. And then the levers you have to influence this trend. We're going to talk through one of our clients, SwissGear, towards the end of this on how we forecasted their numbers and how we partnered with them to come up with a number that we're going to shoot for this year. So every company I talk to about forecasting, it's not just going to come from the paid search. We manage the paid search for most of our clients, and so it's a big conversation we're having is how are we going to use paid search to grow their brand. But paid search alone is not going to grow anybody's brand dramatically. Especially if we've been working with you for over a year, then we're competing against our own account, and the growth rate might not be as extensive as it was the year before. And we take that into account when we're doing it. But businesses need to be doing some things to grow. So what are you doing as far as new products? What are you doing as far as lowering costs so we can spend more to acquire a new customer? What are you doing with new retail placements? What are you doing with social media? What's your SEO plan? All of those conversations come into how are you going to grow your company in all different channels. Are you going to be new customer focused? So do you want to acquire a lot of new customers this year, or do you need to expand what you're doing with your existing customers? The strategies you use online will be different for each one of those. And are you going to re-platform this year? Are you going to update your website this year? Are you going to focus on your mobile traffic this year? All of those things are conversations that business owners or marketing teams need to have as they're trying to figure out what their goals in 2018 are actually going to be and what they should be. The less in some of these things and the more in maybe some other channels can change dramatically the goals and what is realistic for accomplishing what they want. So when you look at historical trends, we've got a source of truth. Sometimes you're going to have segmentation and sometimes you're not going to have segmentation. So if you have segmentation, you can look at the right side there. As we've segmented a lot of our clients, you'll have the Google TM there in green. You'll have Google non-TM in orange. That allows us to track along how is the trademark terms. The TM, that's the brand searches when they're actually looking for you. And then non-TM is when they're actually looking for one of your products or services. And so how did that perform year over year? Did we do really well as growing our brand and not as good growing our new to file customers of people that were looking just for a product or service that had never heard of us before? If you don't have that, you have to fly at a little bit higher level and look just at like paid search, organic search, and direct traffic. So just understand as you're segmenting data, the further down you can get into each segment of data, the more accurately you can start to forecast the levers that you have to push and pull and what you can expect to get out of them by pushing harder or adding more fuel basically to that part of the fire. Looking at multiple year trends by month can be advantageous. Looking at large sets of data to start your analysis is great. Starting at the year over year, how did 2017 look versus 2016? If your data had big changes year over year, it's going to be a little more difficult. Maybe you look at traffic patterns, but making sure you line up key dates as well. So in this one here, you'll see in sessions, the spikes were at different periods of time, different dates. So this is the November, December. And so the holiday shift of a day is going to have an impact. So make sure you line that up when you're analyzing it to make sure that you're tracking spikes and declines differently and not just saying, oh, well, this day we are way down, but we were way up last year. What did we do last year? Oh, well, actually that was, Black Friday. And product releases, so just make sure you have all the tags in there. And if you don't have those, you're gonna have to pull those externally and then almost, printing analytics and writing on it. I've done a lot of that in my day, or aligning it with Excel. So just getting those promotions in place and knowing when you're going to release products, what promotions really worked last year and what promotions fell flat. Certain holidays are better for your brand than other brands. And so certain times you call out July 4th and Independence Day really well, and other times you don't. So seeing maybe over the last 3 years, how did July 4th look, if that's a big period for you, and see which promotion you really liked as you're looking at this year. I love doing this. So looking outside of your data and looking at some of the Google's data. If you're a larger brand or you have an agency like ours that has access to some pretty cool reports within Google, you can get wonderful reports about click share and impression share against competition, against the industry, and see where your brand lies within that. But anybody can use Google Trends, and you can analyze your brand in Google Trends and see how is it growing over the last 5 years, how is it dying over the last 5 years. Hopefully none of you are, but also benchmark it against a brand term. We're going to see how we did that with SwissGear in a minute. And analyze your core industry terms. So just because your brand search volume may be increasing, but maybe your core product, maybe you sell golf bags, but golf bag searches are way down year over year over the last 3 years. That could be a problem. Despite your brand growing up, you could be capturing a larger piece of a drastically shrinking pie, and that's something to be aware of. Also, search inflation. It's a term we use internally here, that we see about a 10% growth in Google searches year over year, generally speaking. And since every 90 days we see a large portion of Google searches brand new that have never been done before, it's just a different way of people are searching. Just pay attention to that, if you're staying flat year over year, or you're only up 1 or 2%, you're probably falling behind because of general search inflation. General benchmark about 10%. Not, generally speaking, we obviously refine that depending on the industry. As this bonus, analyzing devices to detect new trends. This came up with one of our large clients, a big watch company actually. You need to be aware of where your revenue is coming from. For most brands, we've got about an 80-20% desktop to mobile device revenue split. It's dropping from mobile or from desktop, obviously. We're not going to continue to see 80% plus revenue from a desktop site for most brands. There's always exceptions to the rules, but I'm speaking in generalities to a few hundred of you. This big watch company, though, thought their brand was growing and doing great because overall their trademark part of the account was up in volume year over year. They were great. They were excited as far as search volume. Problem was that 80% of the revenue came from desktop, and search growth was happening on mobile, where they were lagging the industry in growth. So desktop, where most of your revenue is coming, was going down. You were increasing in mobile, which is great. It made it look like there was a little blip, but the industry category of watches was growing much quicker on mobile, and so they actually were falling behind pretty rapidly. So you had a category that was growing and expanding while their brand was actually dying, unbeknownst to them, because they weren't paying attention to some of the data that was causing it. And they've had to do some pretty serious work from a brand perspective to fix that. They've had a lot of people showrooming their product in retailer, not buying their product online and not buying it in retail all the time either. So all that to point out, you really have to dig into multiple layers when you're trying to get a realistic forecast. Just being able to show, oh, brand terms were up, great. Was that on search partners where actually they weren't searching for you, or that you were showing up on some things that weren't search engines? You can get a lot of interesting impressions on search partners if you're not careful, and also looking into that device trend and how it's impacting your brand and your overall revenue, because that's what we were hoping to get is a revenue number. So here's what most companies do when they forecast. It's not wrong, it's oversimplification typically. They'll come up and say, hey, last year we did 2.5 million on the web, so we're gonna add 10% to that, so you better hit 2.75 million. Have fun. And we're gonna give you 10% more budget, so you better be able to get it. And because that's what they've always done, or that's what the company did, or that's what the shareholders expect when you're trading or working within public traded organizations, they do have some pretty rigid guidelines sometimes. But we have to be able to attach that and say, okay, you want 10%, but here's what's going to happen with that, and here's why you are not going to hit that, or here's why you probably should set a 20% goal. Some companies will come to me and say, well, I sat at a conference and they said we should hit 20% year-over-year growth because we're in this category. Like, well, that's great, We want to hit that, but there's a problem with your category having a bunch of retail space and you don't have any, and so you're fighting a different kind of battle, and you might not hit 20% because you haven't been investing in your brand at the same way that they have been. So what it should be is very highly data-based and business objective-based. And so you have to take all of the data into account. What if your profit margin varies significantly from product line to product line? If your low profit margin products are growing more rapidly, that can be great, but you're growing revenue at a good rate, but profits may be flat or down, and that might make it more difficult to invest more heavily in the brand in paid search or branding or video or social media. So use a blended margin to start and try to figure out within your product line what's going to be selling, what we're going to be able to push offline. If you have some great product placement coming up for certain products, you can figure that in as well. But data, don't just do the throw a dart and pray and hope that your agencies or your internal team can do what they're supposed to do or what you want them to do just because. Specifically when it comes to paid search, a lot of forecasting comes along paid search because it's a lever that can be pushed and pulled pretty rapidly and very responsive. So when you don't understand the brand trend, don't understand that most of your new traffic is coming from mobile and it's not converting as well, maybe you need to focus on the mobile site. Business changes. So changes can happen from year over year. Maybe you lost a large retailer. Maybe there were different promotions you used this year that didn't work last year. We had one client that hit phenomenal numbers in 2017, but or actually 2016, but they burned their email list to the ground. They used it way too often. They were emailing 4 or 5 times a week because every time they sent an email, it was bringing in revenue. And so if they were missing revenue numbers, they would just send an email. Well, the return on their email, as you can guess, throughout the year dropped dramatically. So during holiday, they were freaking out sending emails all the time. No segmentation in their email database. Terrible. And that email database is going to fall way below in 2018, even what it did in 2017, because they haven't been able to build it back up yet. And so that is going to be a big impact on their brand and as they forecast. If your account data isn't correct, you can lead to inflated numbers. Maybe it's not supposed to be an organic traffic, but because it was redirecting a paid search to organic, you thought organic was up 40%. That's great because organic is more stable. We're going to bet on that. But if we clean up the data, organic all of a sudden drops 20%, so you're only up 20%. Where you can push and pull within trademark and non-trademark will be important when you look into that. Reforecasting, you're never going to be perfect the first time. So you need to adjust based on some time periods. And so like if you forecast in January what's going to happen in December that year, so much can happen. Our industry changes so fast that you'll never be right on. So understand you're going to reforecast. At least in the middle of the year, reforecast. Some industries need to reforecast quarterly. I doubt you're going to need to reforecast monthly. That would be pretty excessive. But sometimes if the spend level is high enough, it could make sense on paid search to do that. But I doubt that'll be the case. And then as you continue to do it more often, you're going to have more practice and you're going to get better at it. You can change your trends if you have segmentation in your paid search. We're going to dive into that in a second. Your real options are either you're going to grow your piece of the pie online, or you're going to try to grow or capture the same percentage of a larger pie. And that can be different in how you operate that, whether you're a store that's retailing or you're a manufacturer selling to retailers and also selling direct to consumer. You have more margin to play with, and you might be able to push harder on some non-brand terms to grow the pie for everybody. And also other services to leverage your traffic, conversion rate optimization. Is that something that's being considered? Are you replatforming? So here's a little bonus. If you haven't done this yet, connect AdWords to your Search Console. It's a very simple thing to do, but you can get a report that's paid and organic. You'll actually get the queries on your organic traffic, your number of listings, your average ranking, where the clicks went. Fun note, we used this report a lot when we were working to explain to Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys that paid search didn't just steal his organic traffic. His response to us initially was, I don't need to spend money on paid search. I get all the traffic organically. Well, we were able to show that actually, Mr. Jones, while you're a billionaire and very smart, paid search and organic working together actually jumped your overall revenue 5%. So you didn't have all of your paid search traffic go to organic when we went dark. So we had to use this report a lot and then did a lot of blackout testing. But hugely valuable report. I won't jump into it today, but if you want to talk more about it on with me one-on-one, make sure you let me know that, and then I'll show you where it's at and how you can make it work. Okay, so SwissGear. So they've been very generous in allowing us to use some of their data. 2016, their paid search was with another agency, and they spent $12,000 to get $25,000 with us. This is November, December, by the way. Spent $78,000 to get $276,000, and so had tremendous growth on paid search. It was a huge channel for them in 2017, and it was not in 2016. So you can see that we've now become a larger portion of the total. In fact, we're the largest channel of traffic and revenue for SwissGear or during a holiday period. Social grew pretty rapidly as well, but it's a very small piece of the pie. Direct traffic, very healthy number there. Organic, obviously the red one there. Some of that traffic went to paid search, so it's not all lost. But just as we look at some of these numbers, I want to start with the high level of looking at just the snippet of holiday. We started managing them in March of 2017, so we didn't have a full year of working with them, and their data was pretty messy coming into what we were looking at, and they didn't actually own their paid search account. So we had to build a brand new account. We couldn't analyze it year over year, so we had to use some of the reports to get some of this search query data. But at least we had the revenue and analytics that had been tagged correctly, which helped in some of our analysis. And they also had an issue with checkout in holiday that had to be fixed. So this is one of the clients we had go down for a few hours on 2 different days. And so we have to take that into consideration on their overall revenue when we're looking at forecasting this year. We had to put that in context with January, just to make sure certain things were looking good and what was weird in 18 or 17. Obviously, paid search up tremendously, a very large portion of the traffic. And so January last year, we may have lost some of the paid search that obviously we weren't managing at the time, leaked over to direct traffic. And so there's kind of that anomaly there. We don't assume that the entire year direct traffic is going to be down 50%. We just saw on the holiday that it would have been up pretty aggressively. So what we did is we looked at the previous 7 months while we had a revenue, and direct traffic was up 145% over that period. So we don't assume that direct is going to be bad all the time. So through March, we're going to see pretty large paid search increases because we were going against another agency that we were able to perform a little better just because of some of the strategies we put in place. But then March year over year, we're expecting to be up around 20% on paid search for the year. Usually that's around year 1, our growth rate, once we've started competing with ourselves for the year. And so we figured that in when we're looking at it. Here's one of those things I mentioned when you look at the brand versus an important category. So SwissGear really has made a name for themselves in the travel laptop bag. And so laptop backpacks are a big category for them. And you can see SwissGear's in the blue. The red is one of their big head terms in the industry. You can see they follow the peaks, which are during the holiday here. Some of those are in this is a full year. And so you'll see those peaks, back to school and holiday. And so looking at how they trend over that and that how are they growing, shrinking, some spikes there that we may be seeing or not. But again, these trends, you can manipulate these over different periods of time to get different data sets and look at them differently. But that'll be an important one. If you see a tremendous deviation, like you saw the red line of backpacks going up and to the right aggressively, but the blue SwissGear line going down and to the right, you have some problems that your brand is lagging behind the industry. So use this as kind of a benchmark to say, okay, generally speaking, we're lining up. We haven't hit some of the peaks as well during these time periods. So that's something we need to address and say, okay, we really missed this peak. This was actually in 2016. We weren't managing the account there. So that's a peak we want to try to hit again. And this was in 2017. We hit closer to the peak there and had a great promo right here for the brand that caused a lot of value there. So aligning yourself with the industry. So here's some assumptions. We're starting 2018 with SwissGear. Organic is going to flatten out. It's not going to be down for long. They've been investing well in SEO, and so they're going to continue to see some of that rebound, some of that leakage of the brand terms that have converted well over from organic to brand. We've increased conversion rate on those, so it's overall a benefit to the brand. But some of that traffic did go to organic, but we expect that to flatten. Direct, we fixed it in March, and so we'll see an increase in the homepage. That's what we're seeing as a 20% increase in people just going to SwissGear.com, no page specifically. They're working with a wonderful conversion rate optimization company, and so they're going to see conversion rates continue to increase at smaller increments. They've been working with them for about 2 years, and so we've got good, reasonable amount of data to show an increase in conversion rate. And when we get LP to LP, we'll expect about 20% for the year, so 20 months, 2 months of big stuff. SwissGear themselves is really focusing on brand engagement, and so they've got 80 million units they've sold over the past 10 years, and so they're really wanting to focus on those customers and bringing them back into the brand. So some of that's through email, and some of that is new initiatives and products. So they're going to do some offline marketing, and they got new products being released. So they've got some wallets, they've got some of the watches in. So you'll see an added mix throughout the year. They've been on the site since October, but right now they're only 1% of shopping sales. So we're not expecting a big boost in sales because of new products. I think that's going to be more of a long-term play. But an exciting place to be playing with them, and when things are going up so well. And so what we saw and what we were comfortable forecasting for the site as a whole, paid search again will be up 20%, and we expect that to be about 35 to 40% of the site. We're expecting them to be up 20% year over year. The brand came back to us, and we always had the brand come up with their number on their own without talking to us, and they came up with 50%. And so actually what we went in is, okay, why did you think 50%? Oh, well, we have this great email program we're starting to launch that we haven't done before, and we're expecting it to do an additional X number of dollars. Oh, and these products are not on the site yet, but what we've seen in other markets, not the US, they've done this, this, and this. Like, oh, okay. And so using all that data with us and the brand, both doing separate analysis and then coming together, because they're going to have a different opinion of certain things that they see and a different understanding. We at Logical Position will never know our clients' businesses as well as them. We'll know the data space and the online space probably a little bit better, but coming together in those two expertises is great. So I think we settled I'm not the account manager on the account, but we settled, I think, around 30% goal year over year. And so we'll revisit that. Actually, they're a big enough brand. We'll be revisiting that in June, I believe, as we finalize their holiday plan with Google. So what can you do as a brand? You've basically seen a extremely fast analysis of SwissGear in a very small segments of data. Going through that would have probably taken me hours and hours, even when I talk quickly. So from paid search, that's the quickest lever people can push and pull on. Organic, you invest now, you might get results in 6 months. There's certain SEO you can do that will give you results in a couple weeks at the most. So there's certain things you can do quick there, but generally speaking, if you need some quick stuff, paid search is going to be a lever you can push on quickly and get something quickly. But as you push more aggressively, if you've been spending $10,000 a month on paid search and you need to increase traffic to the brand, you might spend $15,000 or $20,000 to get some quick results, but the return on ad spend typically drops as you scale. Not always. A lot of accounts I've looked at will actually we're able to scale very quickly and spend a lot more and grow the brand very quickly, just because there were some issues we were able to fix quickly. Email. If you haven't started segmenting your customers and emailing them differently, you have a huge missing. That can be a big win for you. We're partnered with some great email platforms. We don't actually do that internally, but I have partners that do it way better than I can even talk about it conceptually. I use it for a lot of my businesses and know the power of it. But if you're emailing Corey sitting next to me the same way you're emailing me, you're going to fail because our interests are different and we need to be talked to differently. Are you going to do a site refresh this year? If you're not on BigCommerce, you're going to jump to BigCommerce. If you've been on BigCommerce in the same template or site for 5 years, maybe it needs a refresh. Maybe your brand needs a lift on it. Or you're going to do conversion rate optimization. We work with a phenomenal company that does conversion rate optimization that you'll see, if you have 10,000 visitors a month that are converting at 1% and you just double that to 2%, you just double your revenue without increasing your traffic. That can be phenomenal. And any increase in conversion rate will cross over all channels. And so just taking your existing traffic and just making yourself more efficient can be a huge win for you. I'm a big advocate for paid search if you haven't figured that out. So I'll touch on a little bit on what we can do within paid search. Separate your trademark and non-trademark. If your account has all of your brand terms in the same campaign as your non-brand terms, not going to work great. You want them in different campaigns. You want to understand the differences between them and the intent between them, both in search and in shopping. You can easily separate out, well, not easy, a lot of people don't do it, but you can separate out your brand and non-brand on search terms. So if Google's starting to show shopping results when people search for your brand or your company, you should have all of them, not some of them, all of them. And you can do that by segmenting your shopping traffic. You need to have different goals for your trademark and non-trademark. Trademark, you're probably, and I say trademark, that's your brand, people searching for brand.com or brand plus product. You're probably not going to have a ROAS goal on that. You're going to capture them, send them to the appropriate page, and they're going to convert it what they are. Anywhere from 10 to 100 would be the range we have, depending on how competitive your brand term is, or if your brand term is actually an industry term. Non-trademark, you're going to set your goal around that and manipulate your ability to spend and acquire new customers to your brand through that. Some companies use trademark profit to spend on non-trademark. They're still tracking it separately. Some want to take profit from trademark and break even on non-trademark. It's a brand decision on your cash flow. So what I like about paid search, though, typically is as you're spending, you're getting money put in as quickly as your merchant processor will put it in. So it's a great way to scale. And I always tell companies, there's no reason to limit your spend. If you're printing money and there's another $10 bill out there to print by putting $1 in, you should probably do it. Rather than just say, nope, we capped our spend at $5,000 a month. That's it. Don't spend more. Okay, that can be great. We can work with that. But at the same time, there's probably some elasticity within that should your results do really, really well. Adjusting your goals, also your return on ad spend goals, that's ROAS, based on intent. So understand the value that each channel within paid search is bringing you and know what you're trying to achieve. Understand your shopping behavior. This is a big insight to a lot of companies as they start working with us. The way we structure shopping, you're actually able to see what they click on and what they buy. And you don't have to make inferences, especially important if you have drastic margin differences across your product line. But over 50% of the time, people that click on a product buy something different. And most people can't actually give that hard data. We've actually done studies on a lot of our clients. One I did last year for a webinar was out of the 732 transactions from shopping during a month period, they had 1,900 products purchased. Only 43% of the transactions that completed, so only 43% of those 732 actually had the product they clicked on when they checked out. Only 16% of the overall product mix was the product they clicked on. So if you have different margins, a lot of shopping campaigns will have them separated by margin, and they'll bid more aggressively on a higher margin product, thinking that that's what they're buying. When in reality, you could actually be optimizing yourself into the poorhouse by thinking you're selling a high margin product and actually selling a low margin product. Huge. Also in shopping, look at the search queries that have converted in shopping and build some search campaigns around it. It's easy to do. That's low-hanging fruit. Every time there's a shopping ad, there's opportunity for a text ad. It doesn't go the other way. And understand shopping also assists other channels more than it closes. So before you increase or decrease your spend in shopping, you need to see how it's assisting other channels, organic, email, social. And then watch your paid and organic. We talked about Jerry Jones and the 8% overall lift. I'm going to fly through these last slides so we can get to a couple questions. Paid search bonus here, dynamic search ads. If you have them in your account, great. You should be using them. Most of the time, they're misused about 90% of the time. I see them used to do some heavy lifting where they're bid too high and they're capturing a lot of brand traffic. They haven't used negative keywords to sculpt out traffic. You can actually pick certain pages. If you don't want all of your products showing on dynamic search ads, don't pick that page. You can pick certain pages to show or not show. Typically, you'll see DSA that should be used at about 10% of the actual spend level or actual click of a normal search ad. Remarketing RLSA, hugely powerful. I see so much waste in mobile. Make sure you're segmenting your remarketing by device type to see where you're wasting things. Use RLSA, audiences, audiences, audiences. Even if you don't bid differently, this is a remarketing list for search ads. If they search for the widget and they've been to your site in the past, you need to see if that person responds better to your paid search ad or worse, and then bid on them differently after you see enough data. So segment audiences, put them all in there on shopping and search. You can never have too much data. It's one of the golden rules of paid search, more data. Also video, it's the cheapest branding you can get. I won't dive into it here. There's a high barrier to entry, but you should be doing it. We will skip these last couple of slides and actually get into some questions. So these slides will be posted. We'll put a recording of the webinar up so that everybody that's been on here can actually see it. So thank you all for being on this. You all, because you're a BigCommerce client, get 1 hour with me personally. I'll spend an hour with all of you looking through your AdWords, looking through your analytics with you. I can help forecast. I can help guide and direct some things that are happening in your AdWords account. So you can see if you go to logicalposition/BigCommerce, you'll be able to set up directly with me or call me directly, email me. If you're not utilizing paid search, but you still want to talk to me, just email me out, and I'd love to talk strategy. Business for me is fun. I joke with my wife, I'm too old and fat to play sports, so I get to play in business. So feel free at any point to reach out to me, and let's get to some questions. Corey.
Okay, so the first one we have is the client's website traffic fell year over year, and nearly all of it was from direct traffic. Are there any ways to dig into direct to figure out why it fell so much? It seems like a black box.
So when it comes to direct traffic, there's a lot of things that, as far as traffic dropping is one thing, revenue dropping is another. So a lot of times you'll see bots that hit the direct traffic. You can find the pages they may have hit and maybe go into some location targeting within that direct traffic and figure out, oh, they all came from Russia. Oh, and they didn't buy anything. Something to look at within that. If it's revenue dropping year over year, usually that's a branding play. And so some things have to be looked at as what were they doing in branding to go there. A lot of times if you lose tracking from paid avenues, that can show up as direct traffic, not just organic if it's tagged incorrectly. So there's all kinds of issues. If you cleaned up some things, I'm guessing you probably cleaned up some bad traffic, and you may be looking at a cleaner set of direct traffic, and they need to look at maybe some of the other channels that were sending traffic to their site. But that's a difficult one without analyzing within the site, but there's definitely some opportunity there.
Okay. Next question is, how does Amazon play into this?
Ooh, the big competitor. Funny, I just did a big talk on Amazon and how companies are playing with Amazon effectively. It's definitely having an impact on many of our clients. Some clients saw a 30% increase. One client in particular, I'm remembering now, had a 30% increase in cost per click year over year. And no, actually, that was only just a 6-month period. It was July through December of 2017. And that had a big impact on the return on ad spend. The only difference was Amazon. And shopping, though, year over year in January, when I analyzed them, their average cost per click went from 13 cents to 22 cents in shopping, which is a 69% increase. And there were still 22 advertisers in there, but Amazon got more aggressive. So you need to have a strategy with Amazon. Most brands are probably going to be selling there, but you need to be aware of how your brand is being represented on Amazon, because Amazon has to be treated like a retailer. They are not going to be selling your brand specifically. They just want somebody to buy from Amazon. They don't care what product. And so I have Keen Shoes is based here in Portland, and they actually gave up their brand traffic to Amazon because they have a very nice Amazon brand page. If you look at Google or on Amazon, you'll see it there. But the Amazon ads don't drive to that brand page. They actually drive to a page that's a search page that has a lot of the competitors of Keen on it, because Amazon has an incentive to get those ads clicked on as well. So Keen actually had only about 25% of the products above the fold on the ad that Google or Amazon was driving traffic from Google on a brand term. So you searched Keen Shoes. They're going to have an impact if you're a retailer selling on Amazon and also selling direct. They're a competitor. They're another retailer there. They're going to drive your costs up. They are probably the largest spender of Amazon on Google. I haven't been able to get a hard number from Google, but it's probably in the 9 figures. So it's highly valuable there.
I think we have time. One more.
Okay.
What if I don't have access to my AdWords account?
Oh, yep. This happens occasionally. So there's some agencies that like the SwissGear is a great example. They didn't have access to their account. And we had to actually use analytics for revenue and then get some of their reports and dissect them as far as the queries that they were showing for. But it's unfortunate. Every brand should own their own account in AdWords and analytics. I just had another brand come on yesterday that didn't own either one, and the agency is not giving it to them. So we have to create some new things. So it's going to make some analysis year over year difficult. So as soon as you can, own the admin on your analytics and your AdWords. Please, please, please. If you do nothing else today, but get the control of your AdWords and analytics, you're going to be, future self will thank you for sure.
We have one question.
We did get one. Okay.
So about 50% are sales and 80% of revenue are sales closed on the phone. Is there a way to manually tag these in Google Analytics?
I assume you're talking about phone sales. I partner with a company called CallRail. If you talk to me, I can get you a trial there for a couple weeks for free. You can use their system to send traffic back into channels like analytics and AdWords and attribute revenue to the right channel. It gets complex, but it's possible, especially if you use Salesforce.
We use it as well.
And yeah, we do. That's right. We use CallRail as well. So we have hundreds of clients using them. So we know it well, and we obviously believe in attributing the revenue to phone calls. So definitely possible. Feel free to reach out to me. Ryan, it looks like you want to talk to Ryan. So send me an email or give me a phone call or fill out that form on BigCommerce and I'll help out.